Hello, everyone. I am Karen Mulreed with Forte Financial. Welcome to our latest episode. Today, I have a very special guest, a colleague in the real estate industry, and also an excellent friend, and I value her friendship. I want to introduce you to Jessica Buckley.
Morning, Karen.
Good morning. Jessica is a buyer and seller's agent with the Jody Boxer team at Keller Williams. Their main office is in Stamford, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And tell us a little bit about yourself so that the audience can get to know you.
Of course. So you and I have known each other for probably since the beginning. I started about 10 years ago.
10 years, a long time.
It's a long time. We've been friends since the beginning, which I love. Still going.
I know.
I'm a mom of 4.
And you never look frazzled for 1 second ever, which is why I would trust you with all my real estate needs.
Of course, of course. Kids are 12 to 20, and in those later years, I'm almost free of that.
That's right. They grow up fast.
Yes, and just moving and grooving in the real estate industry for the past 10 years, and it took off. I started, I just wanted to dip my toe in something new as a mom of 4 young kids, and no looking back. It just kind of took off, and I've been having a great time.
And you've been very successful.
Thank you.
Every year, no matter what. No matter what the market is, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
Jessica is a successful agent on both the buyer and the seller side. From everything that I hear from clients that we have together where I finance them and you help them buy or sell, they think you are extremely knowledgeable about the market. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of patience and have a nice, easy way about you because buying a home is stressful.
It is.
So today we wanted to talk about moving up, where you already bought a home the first time. God knows how many years ago that is, right? Because it's not something you do every day. So you really don't know what to do.
Right.
So I remember when I moved up from my first house, even though I'm in the business, I feel like I know what to do and how to do it, or at least I could tell my clients what to do and how to do it. When you're completely overwhelmed.
Right.
So let's start with, how do you know you need to move up? Or how do you know you want to move up? Or how do you make that decision?
Well, being in this for 10 years, obviously, a lot of my clients ended up being first-time home buyers typically. And we're kind of in that, phase of life. It's either been 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and they're calling and ready to go or ready to start talking about it and thinking about it and asking Jess, how are we going to tackle this? So it's complicated, and so you do need somebody to hold your hand through it. It's not as easy as just waking up and calling your realtor from 10 years ago and saying, it's time. There's a lot to think about. But a lot of my clients, I find that it's really just change of life. The kids are getting bigger. A lot of them, my clients began, as maybe engaged couples or things like that. And now we're working on baby number 3 coming and things like that. They didn't think about that they would be somewhere, and they're just running out of space. And so it's time for them to make the move or start thinking about the move. They definitely want to be prepared. Usually, where it begins.
So do you ask them to focus on what it is that they want in their next house, or where they want to live, or what neighborhood, or how do they decide? I mean, remember, some of them are probably in condos in probably the heart of the city, Stamford or Norwalk, or here in Ridgefield. Mm-hmm. Where do you start?
Well, they're starting from everywhere. What I do is a lot of them, because they have been an owner, they were first-time home buyers. They had been renting. They didn't know what they really wanted. Now they've been living in their home, and they've really had the time to figure out this is an investment. They know what it's like to be a homeowner. They've had experiences, some good, some positive, things that they had to have when they moved into the house. They needed to have that fireplace. And now that they've got 3 kids running around, they're like, Jess, you know what? We don't even turn that thing on anymore.
Right,
you know,
don't have time to sit by the fire.
They've lived and learned, and every phase of life, you're going to live and learn of what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and so, but it's really an investment in what you do want and what you don't want, and so they've learned from the first time what was really important to them, and maybe they fine-tuned it a little bit more. So it's really focusing on things like that. And a lot of them have experience of what has worked and what hasn't worked, which is really cool. But then also we're really discussing, staying in the neighborhood. I have clients right now that, living in Stamford somewhere, they've really, let's say living in Glenbrook and would just love to stay in Glenbrook, just have a little bit more space. Right. And so we're kind of working on, that avenue. And then there are couples who are looking to, venture out north a little more, maybe because get a little more for your money, things like that. All different ways of looking at it.
Or just live in a different town and experience something new.
Yep.
Go where their friends are.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the hardest part. Do you find that buyers are particular to certain towns, or are they willing to explore everywhere? And
no,
that's what makes you more knowledgeable, because now you have to know everywhere.
Of course. A lot of buyers, in Fairfield County, there is certain areas that they know that they want to focus on for certain reasons. For instance, we're just outside of New York City. So a lot of my clients are clearly commuting into the city. COVID obviously changed a lot of that. So some people's lives are now totally remote. What we bought 6 years ago, 7 years ago isn't really necessary anymore, because so they can move up, the line somewhere. Or others have bought during COVID and it was all working from home and they moved somewhere, and now their offices are asking them to come back in. So we're also seeing a transition of that. So we are going to start seeing a lot of interesting, not fallout, but just things are going to come into play a little more, settle over the next 5 to 10 years, I think, of really how COVID really changed a lot of the real estate industry.
It did change a lot of lives.
Yes.
But so what do you think is the biggest myth, or what is the biggest challenge that buyers have? Or what are they what are some misconceptions or items that they should think about that they're not? Or what are they focusing on that maybe they shouldn't? Yeah. Let's share with the
biggest one I hear is really from the mortgage end, and they really don't understand that till we start having these conversations.
It's my favorite topic.
Yes, that's why you're here, and why I'm here to talk with you. So they say, they want to talk about all the exciting things. We want to move here. We want to move this. And my first question is, okay, how are we financing this? Have we really thought about that? And a light goes off in their head like, oh, didn't even, I said, can you sell to buy? Things like that. How are we doing this? And a lot of people really don't. I think they've just adjusted to the fact that it's time to move. It's time to make those choices. But the financing and really the challenges that we are going to be facing for everybody are just something that is secondary. And so I say, hold on, what's the plan? Have you thought about this? And then that's when we have to come to you. And I say, talk to the expert, because I can talk with you a little bit about it, but we really need to be getting back in line with our original mortgage broker. Give Karen a buzz and see, how are we going to make this happen? What's going to work for us to make this work?
It's way more exciting to look at houses than it is to finance them.
It is.
Yeah, especially when you're financing, you're looking at your income, your savings, your credit, your debt. I mean, you're really, it's almost like soul searching, that you have to really be honest about what you can afford, what your own personal budget is. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what you qualify for, what's your own personal budget and what else do you have to consider? So to start with, I always recommend that after anybody closes that they obtain a home equity line of credit on their home. Oh. Granted, you have to have the equity to do that. So if you're putting 3% down on your first home, and a lot of my first-time home buyers do that because they have the incomes, but they certainly haven't had enough time to save the amount of money that they need to put a big down payment on a home, especially in Fairfield County, which is where we are.
Yeah.
So I always recommend that, because then you always have, if you have a home equity line of credit, you always have access to money. So say you put 20% down on your home when you purchase, well, get another 10% in a home equity line of credit after close. So now if the house was $700,000 and you've put down 20%, so now you have 560 in a mortgage. Well, maybe you can get another 70 in a home equity line of credit, and it kind of gives you the money that you might need to put down on the next home to, for contract signing, for, I guess you're still doing 1% down with a purchase agreement when somebody signs their purchase agreement. How does that work?
It depends. So in Fairfield County, a lot of that is not really how people are operating these days. Of course, you can,
bring us up to date.
Right. It's we're seeing a lot of clients moving to the contract phase, and versus a purchase agreement, a binder. Talking about a lot.
So let's back up and explain to everybody exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you find a home, you love it, you say, I have to have this, and you put in an offer to purchase. And you put it in writing, which you draw up. You would put that paperwork together, right?
Exactly.
To submit to the seller and their agent. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then do you accompany that with a check?
Sometimes. Sometimes you do. Not a lot of times really anymore.
Times have changed because I had to do that.
It's not that you had to do that. It really depends. We're going to have to edit all this out.
So tell me what do you do now? What's the process?
Okay. So what we're doing now is we're really making the offer, saying that, when everything is into contract, we're going to be putting down some sort of a deposit, maybe 1%, maybe a full 10%. It really is going to depend on really what is negotiated to get something in escrow to the attorneys to be holding. So that would come into play. Having that home equity line could be really helpful if they're putting down $10,000, $12,000 or something like that. It would be nice to have that in play.
Right. That home equity line is just, it's there so that you can access the funds. You don't have to use them, which means you're not paying on money that you're not using.
Okay.
There's a small maintenance fee of, maybe $500 a year or so, if that, to have the line of credit.
Okay.
But I think it's great to have in an emergency if you ever need to access money, but also to prepare for the next home. Everybody thinks that they're going to be in their current home for the rest of their lives, and we both know that that's not true. But I thought I was just going to die in my last house.
Absolutely.
Of course, I downsized and, moved on from there because of my life changes. So you're right. It's all about life changes that give you that go ahead to move and to change your life and where you live.
Absolutely. I think so. Let's talk more about that. What are the financing strategies that you are seeing second-time home buyers really calling you, and what are you chatting with them about that's going to be helpful for them?
Well, we always do the basics. Like I always say, income, savings, credit, and debt. Let's see where you are. Let's see if you own your home now, you want to buy another one. Can you afford to keep the home that you have and purchase another one and have the time in between to move in? So can you hold both the mortgage on the new home and the one on the present home? Most people have a difficult time doing that. But depending upon when you bought, what your mortgage payment is, and what your finances are now, and, have you gotten an increase in pay? Have you gotten promoted? Do you have different type of income coming in? Are, you and your spouse or your partner both working? What does that financial situation look like? Let's see, first of all, can you afford and manage to hold the mortgage on your current home and the one on your new home?
So I have a lot of clients. I'll really, obviously I have a little bit of a conversation with them about that and really say you have to refer to the mortgage broker. But a lot of people just come back with, I'll just get a bridge loan. What is that? Is that something that really exists anymore?
Well, I mean, there's different ways that you can have the money for down payment for the new one. Really, basically, it's can you afford to hold both if you're not planning to move out on the same day that you purchase. And it does work out. I know people think that that's a lot going on, and there's too much happening to synchronize that buy and sell, but you can do it.
We do it every day.
Right. We do it every day, and it does seem overwhelming,
Yeah.
but it is doable.
Yeah.
We also look at, is there do you have a place to go in the meantime? So if I close today and I'm not, so I sell my house today, but I'm not moving into my new home for a month, what do I do for that month? Do I go on vacation? Maybe.
Okay.
Do I move in with a friend? Do I move in with family? Do I find a place to rent? A short-term rental.
Right.
That is always an option.
Right.
Really, it's about the opportunity that exists out there and the fact that you have a different mindset. How can we make this work?
Right.
So I've never had anybody homeless.
Me neither.
I've never had a client have to move in with me because they had nowhere else to go. It does work out.
Okay.
I mean, when I sold my home and bought my condo, it's almost 3 years ago now, I had nowhere to go. I mean, I stayed with a friend.
Really?
And it worked out really well because I had a 25-day gap between my closing and my purchase.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of fun, and I felt like a free spirit.
Yeah.
And I never felt so free. I didn't have anything I had to pay for, so it was kind of fun. But it is doable, and
Okay.
you just really have to think it through and look at your options and say, what can we do to make this work? And look at the finances. I always want my buyers to feel comfortable with the debt that they're taking on now because it's principal, interest, taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance if you need it, condo fee, a homeowners association fees. You need to look at all of that. You need to be comfortable with it.
Of course.
And then, how much mortgage do you want to take? How much of them? So you're going to sell your current home, and you're going to use some of those proceeds towards the purchase of a new home, which is what leveraging your real estate is all about, right? So in past years, we've seen lots of appreciation, right? And you've paid down your mortgage. So between paying down your mortgage balance and the appreciation in the market, you have a certain amount of money that you are looking at. So what do we do with that? How do we break that out so you have money for down payment, you have money to close, and you can still keep some money because I know when I purchased my home, I said, oh, really nothing has to be done. It's all just perfect. And then you move in and there's 1,000 things you want to do.
Of course.
So you want to make sure you have money to do that. So we look at that. That's one of the reasons why I like the home equity line of credit because it bridges the monies that you need from your current home to the purchase of your new one. You can use some of your investments and borrow from those because you're going to immediately pay them back.
Okay.
You can borrow from your retirement account because, remember, that's money that's in savings and you can borrow against it and go on a payment plan there so that you're not using that money and not replacing it. So you will have it when you go to retire.
Yes, I have a lot of clients that are currently doing the same.
That's important.
And I'll be going into this will be my fourth home. I'm considering, starting to explore selling my home and, changing. So I've never done the home equity loan. So maybe I'm going to try that this time.
Look at it. Or you might even, family always wants to give their kids or their grandchildren or nieces and nephews gifts. And you really don't know about that until you start talking with family that you're going to be buying a home. I know a lot of parents will say, well, we definitely want to help you out. The first thing you need to do is what does that number look like? And it's a very difficult discussion to have because parents always say, or I know I would say to my son, hey, well, whatever you need, let's see what you need when you find the house. But that's not giving them the financial information that they need to make a really big financial decision. You know, a new home purchase, if it's your first home, your second, this will be your fourth, right? You still need to know what the monies look like. So
True.
how much money do I have and what can I afford to spend, or what do I want to spend
Right.
on the new purchase,
Right.
right?
Right. What do I need to spend?
What do I
maybe?
need to spend? You know, what makes the new mortgage payment more doable for me now? You know, so we always want to make sure that we practice responsible lending and we don't take on more than we feel comfortable with,
Of course.
right? So I think there's lots of avenues where you can look for money for down payment, and we do want to make sure that you have the income to take it on. You know, if you're in a $500,000 condo today, but now you want to look at $800,000 house, well, do you have the income necessary, you know, to purchase that?
Make that happen. Right.
So I think those are really, really important. It's an important discussion to have initially, and when I start talking to buyers sellers, right? It's not something that you can decide in 5 minutes. It's something that you have to think about. You actually have to look at where your finances are. How much money do we have available? What do we feel comfortable spending? You know, where do we need to be?
It's so important, especially before you start looking at the properties. You know, it's very exciting to get out there and start looking at primary baths and, you know, walk-in closets, things that you've never had. But you really need to have these financial conversations with somebody like yourself to really help you so that you don't get out there and start looking at things that you can't have. You need to be realistic about the situation before you go down that road, just like you did with the first home.
Right, and we all have a budget.
Yeah.
You know, whether the budget's $500,000 or, you know, $3 million, we still all have a budget. So I always encourage my buyers to really take the time to think that through.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to decide in 2 minutes. You know, have the discussions with your spouse or partner, you know, whoever. You can always, another alternative is to get a non-occupant co-borrower to help you out if you need it for income. And that could be a parent who is going to be on the mortgage and help you qualify for financing, as opposed to, you know, they're not going to live in the home, but they're going to help you qualify.
Very good. I mean, cool. Could you tell me a little more? I'm always curious about this delayed financing situation. Could you, if I've had buyers discussing that, really, can you explain what that is so I can explain it a little better?
All right. We love delayed financing.
Yeah.
I think it's great for the buyer because the buyer is essentially offering cash.
Okay. Which,
Every seller loves cash.
of course.
So the seller, you know, gets the cash. The buyer will then, you know, provide the cash at closing, but then wants to, you know, reimburse themselves or replace those funds that they've spent, you know, whether they've taken it from their investment account or you're not getting a gift for delayed financing.
Okay.
Delayed financing replaces money
that was yours.
or that you have spent or that you have gotten a loan on but is not a gift.
Okay.
Gifts are not to be repaid.
Oh.
So you wouldn't be getting new financing to pay someone back for a gift.
Okay.
Gifts are not.
So if a parent gives a gift of $1 million to purchase a home, you can't get delayed financing to pay your parents back. If they call it that.
Say it's a gift.
Interesting.
But if you have a separate agreement that outlines terms for repayment, that you could do.
Oh, I never knew that. Okay.
That you could do. And we have specific guidelines for how to go about doing that I would share with your buyer if that's what they wanted to do.
Oh.
Because there are certain steps you need to take, and we want to make sure that you follow the guidelines to a T so that you have no issues later. But basically, it's you have money that you want to pay your seller in cash, and then replace those funds later.
Okay.
And typically you can get up to 75% financing doing that. And remember, again, you have to be able to afford that. The numbers have to make sense to you. You have to still qualify.
Okay.
So I think that's another great way to offer cash, have your offer accepted, and then still be able to, replace those funds after the deal closes. And you have within 6 months. I mean, we could work on it immediately.
Oh, wow. Okay. Love
So
that.
that's another. So what other questions do you find that your buyers have? Like, should they take a fixed or an adjustable?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, really. That is even I asked you recently, and I'm thinking about it. Should I do a fixed rate right now?
I think we could look at both. I think we need to see where you are in your, not necessarily you personally, but where the buyer is in their career.
Okay.
And what their income might look like. So to take an adjustable now that you may or may not want to refinance later, it depends on where you are in your career, what you might be comfortable with. If you're older and thinking about retiring and your income is going to be less as you go on, well, maybe you don't want to take an adjustable because you don't want to have to worry about refinancing it unless rates, drop significantly enough to make it worthwhile. And will you have the income to do that? Whereas, someone younger like yourself, your career is continuing to boom. And your income is increasing, so taking an adjustable it's definitely worth considering.
Okay.
And it's worth considering with regards to where are rates today on an adjustable, or at whatever time you're buying. Is there a significant difference? Does it impact your payment significantly enough that you would take the adjustable as opposed to the fixed?
Okay.
In recent years, most lenders have focused on fixed rate mortgages. So the adjustables, the spread wasn't wide enough to make the adjustables worthwhile. So most of my clients right now have a fixed rate. But that's starting to change, and we're starting to see more adjustable rates come out.
Oh, wow.
And be a little bit more competitive, but also we're looking at potentially a dropping rate environment. So everybody's excited about that.
Music to my ears.
Right, and I think that I think once a year we should always do a mortgage checkup.
Okay.
And just take a look at it and
Okay.
see if your financial goals have changed, and is there something or some way that we can use that mortgage to help you achieve your goals. So if rates do drop, you might want to refinance just to lower your monthly outlay of cash,
Okay.
so that you have more for savings. Or would you like to take some cash out maybe and put it away for college, like you're going to be doing with a couple of your kids soon, right? That's always a consideration. And I think those are things that we need to look at and to consider.
Every time I talk to you, I learn some more.
It's amazing, right? No, I do. I do enjoy that part of it. I think, trying to figure out what works best, that's the challenge. But that's what makes the job really rewarding. And it's great to help buyers see an opportunity that they didn't know existed before.
Right. Right.
I mean, this is what we do for a living. So we're used to buying and selling and coordinating finances and coordinating moves and kids and schools. And that ends up to be the easy part, I think.
Right.
What we're used to seeing it. But when you put yourself in that situation and your emotions kick in, that's where we're here to hold your hand.
For sure. For
Right.
sure. Very helpful. I mean, the other thing I wanted to really point out is that we have so many buyers that, the first-time home buyer that would love to be that second-time home buyer, but they're in this low rate right now, and they're having trouble, deciding on, upgrading the house and changing their rate. But life is going on, where people are
Right.
just, sometimes busting at the seams in the house
Right.
with the kiddos. And it's just, do you ever think that we'll go back to numbers like that?
I don't think that we're going to see 3% mortgages. I do
Right.
think that mortgage rates are going to go down over the next 6 to 18 months for sure. I think we're going to see a decline there. But
But life's going on.
life is going on, and it's always a matter of, can I afford this? Not, I'm going to boast about the fact that I had 3%. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
We never wear T-shirts that say, oh, I have a 3% rate, or I have a
Right.
6% rate, or a 7%, whatever it is.
Yeah. Are you truly happy in that home anymore?
Right? And do you need the change?
Yeah.
And can you afford the change? Is it worthwhile for you and your family? I think, that's the most important. And do you need that lifestyle change? I mean, I certainly took the change. And when I decided to downsize, one, I wanted to take advantage of the market because I think housing prices are as
Incredible.
they are
Where they've
incredible. And most of us do have a lot of equity in our
Yes.
homes now
Yes.
because we've been there for a long time. And our rates were lower. But I also took the plunge. I mean, my rate, sure, it's a little bit higher than it was, but my whole lifestyle has changed, and it's worth every penny every day.
Yeah.
I love the change. I love living in a different community, and it's just been wonderful.
And that old rate is a thing of the past to you.
It is a
You
thing
don't
of the
even
past,
care
and
about
it's
it
just-
anymore.
It's just a thing. It's
Yeah.
just, if I couldn't afford it, or like if you came to me and you didn't feel comfortable with that payment, then we would just readjust your price point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's always a way to do it. Or sometimes maybe you're putting a little more down, to lower the monthly nut. It is a challenge, and it's a balance. But
There's obviously a lot to think about, a lot to talk about, and everybody really needs to be prepared for this. It's you don't just wake up and do it, but you start talking. You start talking to your realtor, your mortgage broker, and really start wrapping your head around these things to get where you want to be.
you do. It does take a lot of time and effort. And it is worthwhile because anything that's worthwhile doing, you really need to think about it. And
Yeah.
it is a little stressful.
Yeah.
But think
Oh,
about
we don't promise it's not going to be, but we'll hold your hand through it.
But think about anything that you've ever done in your
Yeah.
life. Making a change is stressful because it's the unknown. But deep down that it's the right move to make. Literally the right move to make, right?
Yeah.
So going from your first home to your second, it's something that so many of us do, and we've all survived.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're both living to talk about it. And it's just, knowledge is power. And I think, the perspective that you can give them on the market. So how do you decide about selling your home? Tell me the considerations, or tell our audience today what you're considering, or how you price, or do you do work? What do you suggest?
So it's all different things. Obviously, it's not one size fits all for everybody. It really depends on the money that you have to invest in getting the home ready and things like that. Of course, pricing the home. We're in a market where everybody is pricing to sell. We are still. That's really, sadly, the biggest mistake people will make is that sellers who are really used to the way that real estate used to work, and not really taking the advice of really the way the market is working these days.
So what should they be doing?
So, you're looking at the comps and where the homes are selling, and I know it's a totally different strategy than it was.
So when you say comps, tell us a little bit more about what that means.
So your comps are really the comparable sales, to your home, and also what is comping to your home on the market currently. Honestly, that's really the biggest thing that I'm looking at, and it's a conversation I have with people because it depends if we're listing tomorrow or if we're listing in 6 weeks. I can't tell you what I mean? I can't pinpoint your price of what's going to happen 6 weeks from now. It's really up to the market the data that's driven. If we're listing your home on Wednesday, I need to know who's on the market on Tuesday, and we really need to position ourselves correctly for your house to stand out in this market, because it's the attention that you're getting. It's all in the marketing, and it's not, like I said, one size fits all. It's, obviously getting your home up to show ready is usually going to be.
But that doesn't mean you have to do huge renovations.
No, of course not. Like, I just painted my front door. I had a yellow front door up until Saturday, and I just had it painted like a beautiful pencil color, and I'm loving it. It's really refreshed. Painting your front door and just kind of revamping your, the
Even just decluttering,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Mowing your lawn, putting maybe fresh flowers outside. Curb appeal.
Curb
right?
appeal,
That's
exactly.
that's the first thing,
Strong-
right?
drawing
Curb
a blank
appeal.
on it.
So when you drive
Yeah.
up, somebody says, "Oh, wow, I can
Yeah.
picture myself living
Yeah.
here."
Yeah.
But even just small projects, and
Yep.
is that something I'm assuming you will go through, because I know you've done it before. Go through the home with the seller and say, "Here, do this, do that," because sometimes we as consumers think that we need to do projects to make the home more marketable that are different than really what a professional
Right.
would suggest.
You really need to sit down and have your realtor walk the home with you and really go through it with the eyes of a buyer and what we're used to seeing and what we're used to hearing from them. For instance, when I painted the front door this weekend, not even an hour later, my neighbor, sends me a text. "Oh, I love the new door. Are you
Right.
selling? What is going on?" And it's so silly that every seller we have, they'll do the little things to get the home ready, and they say to me, "Jess, why didn't we do that?" These minor little things, and they're like,
Right.
"What took me so long to give it to somebody else?" But it's common to feel that way. It's just some freshening up can really help market the property and help me do my job a lot better. It's teamwork. It's,
Right.
I'm asking you and help you to get the home ready and give you tips and tricks of what is going to work and really what's going to waste your time. We've got people who say, "Oh, I have Hunter Douglas blinds," like that's not raising the value here. I understand they're very nice and I love the remote and things like that, but really it's not going to be appraising more or things like that. But it's small things like that that are going to be helpful.
Right, and you don't have to redo your kitchen and
No.
all of your baths.
No.
I mean, if of course a new kitchen and a new bath improve or raise the value of your home, but if you're looking to sell it, there are other things you can do, and I think you're pricing your house where it is today to get the most that you can today.
Of course.
So that you can sell quickly. And I think you also have to keep in mind, you don't want your house on the market for months and months.
Biggest kiss of death is that if the homes really aren't moving in the
So how long do you wait? A couple weeks before you would readjust the pricing?
it really depends on the conversation you would have with everyone. But if a home hasn't moved in the first, 14 days, it depends on how many showings you've had, really the feedback that you've been getting. If you wait too long, it could be making a drastic difference, right? So it depends on the home, but for the most part, probably it depends on if the seller really took my advice from the beginning, or really they heard what I had to say and they appreciated my opinion, but they said, "But I still want to do it my way." Of course, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I understand. And listen, lightning strikes. I've seen it happen where people will list and it's not exactly a realistic number. Not exactly my listings, but I've even driven around the neighborhood and seen something and I'm, wow, as a realtor, really shocked. And nothing happens. And 6 weeks later, they end up accepting that price. Things do happen, but you don't really want to be playing that game with your home in your future.
Right.
Because typically when it goes out on the market, it's really that first couple weeks, which is really when things should be happening in this market.
Right. It's new. It's exciting. Everybody knows when a new house comes on the market,
Yep.
and it gets lots of attention.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that it just depends on your motivation and how quickly you want to sell, and how quickly you feel the need to move. To move on.
Right. Like what I tell, I tell my sellers is that the buyers are out there, just like dating. They're swiping right. They're looking, every night, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, see that house, oh, that blue one, it comes up. And they see it.
Right.
And if it's honestly in a price point that something that they could never afford, they're going to swipe right, okay? And they're going to see that night after night when they're going through the listings. They're going to start recognizing that home. And if that home is on the market for 3 weeks, they've already said, oh, that, you know what I mean? They've passed by it. And they don't even know why. Like sometimes there'll be a home on the market priced a little higher. I'll go to my buyers, bring things back. What about that one we talked about? And like, oh, I don't know. I kind of passed on that one. Or why did I pass on that one? And I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't priced right. You know what I mean? Like it sets the tone for everything. I tell people that it's really important to be pricing correctly right out of the gates.
Right.
It's because it's honestly very silly because the buyers say to me, well, what's wrong with it? And nothing's wrong with it. They just maybe were just a little too priced a little too high. Maybe they weren't exactly motivated to sell. Maybe they hadn't found their perfect home, to move to. They didn't know where they were going. And then they reduced it because they just found a home this weekend that they're excited to move to.
Right. You never know.
You never know really what's going on the other side. And
that's a good point.
It's unfortunate.
We don't think about that. We think when someone reduces the price, it's because there's something wrong with their house.
There's something
nothing
wrong with
wrong.
it. No.
It's just that their motivation has changed.
Their motivation has changed.
That's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And
yeah. We see it.
So we need really just to consider the house. Is it the house that you can imagine you and your family living in? Not so much why did it, why did they reduce the price? You're going to do an inspection. Now, are most people doing an inspection?
People are doing inspections, of course. A lot of people are using the phrase inspection for informational purposes. That's between you and your realtor to discuss really what that means or what it entails.
So what does that mean?
Depends on who your realtor is and what they're going to explain that to you as. I have people that say inspections are for informational purposes only, and then they'll do the inspection if I'm representing the seller, and then something will come up. Oh, can you take care of XYZ? Can the seller? And we'll say, this was for informational purposes only.
Meaning it's not contingent upon the decision to purchase. It's just for their own information so that they can understand the bones
really
and the
what they're
structure of the
buying.
house.
Right. But then you'll have them say, well, this is new information to us. So, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't know that. So it really depends on how you're looking at it and how your realtor explains it to you. That's having a realtor that you're working with and having these conversations, they're really important. You want to be, there's a lot of knowledge that we have, everyone that's out there, again, swiping right till, midnight. There's a lot on the inside that the realtors know that we're here to share with you. You know what I mean? When you're being, your hand is being held, it's a reason because we do it every day. You know what I mean? And like you just said, never thought about that. Never thought that's why they reduced the price. There's just so much. I mean, we've seen it all.
We have seen it all. Yeah. So now, are most buyers that you're working with in multiple offer situations?
Yes.
Are you using certain strategies to get your bid accepted over others?
Absolutely. It's there's so many different ways, to structure it. It's not just number. It's terms. It's number. It's all of the things. From the start, from when you book that appointment, things really matter. When you submit your offer, it's important to show the sellers that you're going to get to the closing table. when that property comes up on Thursday night, do I wait till Saturday morning or Sunday morning to schedule an appointment for Sunday at 4?
No.
If you're excited in this market and ready to go, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Of course, it's
Right.
possible, but it's really, it's from the beginning. It's getting there, making the offer quickly, assuming, not being worried about what everyone else is paying for it. I understand, the
Right.
fear in this market is a little intimidating, especially if you haven't made the offers before and been through multiple offers. As a first timer in this, obviously I'm sharing all my experience and what I'm seeing in the market, but sometimes buyers still have a comfort level of what they're doing, and of course it's only my job to share the information. It's for them to decide what they're going to do with that information, but we are still seeing multiple offers, and so there are just different strategies and your terms, and always asking the sellers really what in a perfect world it is that they're looking for.
And I think on
Yeah.
both the buyer and seller perspective, it's being flexible.
Yeah.
So sometimes
Patient
just-
and flexible.
Right. So
Yes.
sometimes I think, closing tomorrow isn't necessarily what the sellers want.
Right.
They, their time frame may be 3 months out. And if you can be flexible with that, I think that puts your offer in a better position than somebody who says, no, I absolutely have to close in a week. And you wouldn't think that to be true, but some sellers want the time. Some buyers need the time. So I think on both sides, being flexible is
For sure. And a lot of sellers are even asking to lease back the home. There are a lot of people in that situation where they haven't exactly identified where they're going or what they're doing. They have like a general, but they're looking for flexibility. And a lot of times they need that number to come in. Those numbers, I can tell them, all day long, we can expect, this. Maybe it's a $75,000 price gap between some of the offers, but they really want to, see what they're working with, and it's going to make it helps determine where they're going or what they're comfortable with, because you're doing it, you're typically buying and selling in the same market, and so all these things really matter. And so having the flexibility as a buyer to understand that and to give them the time, whether it's a lease back, whether it's a delayed, closing, multiple avenues that, of course, you're going to go and talk with your attorney to explain how that's all done, because it's done.
right. We
It
do it
happens
every
all
day.
the time.
Right.
Yep.
And it's not.
Yep.
You I think you want to list for a competitive price. You don't want to overdo it. You certainly don't want to undercut yourself. But I think being competitive, from what I've seen, brings in more multiple offers than being overpriced.
For sure.
That's
For sure. Just giving the flexibility and really seeing what it is that the seller is looking for. Anybody with a mortgage, sometimes people have to combine a delayed closing and a lease back, because if you're getting a mortgage, typically is it 60 days that they have to be
we
occupied?
close in a few weeks.
But when they close on the property, how long before they occupy the property? Is it
Within
always
30 days,
60?
they would like you
Oh.
to occupy it within 30 days.
Oh, okay, got it.
For sure.
Yeah, they're important conversations to have.
It is very important to have those conversations early, and to know exactly where you stand, and to know exactly what your purchasing power is, because unfortunately or fortunately, you're making an instant decision. I mean, you're going to see the house. You don't have weeks and weeks to
No time to
ponder and
think.
to decide whether or not you want it. So you really want to know that the price range works for you. You want to know what the payment's going to be, or have some idea what payment range you're looking in, and is that neighborhood and the amenities of the house, does that work for you?
Right.
I think it's a lot to take in, but I always know that getting the financing done and knowing that you can afford it at least puts that stress to bed.
Yeah.
Literally, right, to bed. to eliminate that from your thinking.
Yeah.
And you're just you've gotten your financing approved, and all you're deciding is, do I love this house? Is this a place where I can see myself and my family living in? I think
course.
that's probably the most important. I go back to my own, and you'll be experiencing it soon too, it sounds like. I could imagine myself living where, in the condo I'm in now. and I was right.
Yeah.
But it's just a feeling. How do you know when you found the right house? You just do.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about dating. I guess it's the same way, But, you have a gut feeling about something, and you walk in that house, and it just, like, sings to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, knowing that you can afford it, helps, it helps put that stress
Being
away.
as prepared as possible
Right, prepared.
is really, because it's exciting.
Decluttering, when you decide when you're going to buy or sell, decluttering, going through your home, one room at a time, and I will tell, my clients, even do one drawer at a time, right? One area of the house at a time. You don't have to look at it
This
in the
huge
sense
project.
right, this huge project
Yeah.
that I have to do all in one day.
Yep.
Do one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And make the right decision. Pick it up. Does it make me feel good? Do I need this? No.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many ways to rid yourself of things that are no longer necessary in your life,
But also,
but valuable to somebody else, right?
what's really valuable, working with the Jody Boxer team, we've got so many different, also, stagers, different decluttering companies that can come in and really, there's anything that you need out there. I know it feels really overwhelming, but there are companies that can come in and really help.
Absolutely.
And, to just ease it. It's exciting, and sometimes always saving the most money and doing things is not exactly going to suit your stress level. So maybe
because you have life. I mean, while
Yeah.
you're doing all of this, and especially
Yeah.
when you're selling your house, right, you want to keep it neat and tidy, and you want it to look as spacious as possible, and having that, someone help you go through it and prepare you, it's
invaluable.
There's nothing that takes the place of that.
Right.
I think it's really important. So it's an investment, and it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yes.
Really.
Yep.
But anything else that you would like to share with buyers and sellers? We've given them a lot of
We've
information.
given them so much, and give us a call. We won't, you know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't have
Any
to be.
questions?
Yeah.
Questions, comments.
Yes.
I'm thinking about doing this. What's your time frame like?
Right. No pressure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just a conversation.
We never know when we're going to find the right house. It only takes one, and you want to be ready tomorrow if you see it.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for joining me today. Again, we'll give our audience your contact information so that they can call you and get all the information they need to make their next move in life.
I love that.
So,
Appreciate that, Karen. Thanks
thank
for
you so
having me
much.
today. This was fun.
Yeah.